Okay, welcome back to my channel, Made Between the Pages. My name is Taylor, and today we're going to be doing the Stay at Home book tag. I was tagged by Katie from Brightness Katie Reads and Sophia from Spew Deserves Better. I will link them both below. They're both wonderful people and deserve more subscribers, so please go subscribe to their channels down below. Prompt number 1 is laying in bed. Name a book you could or you have read in one day. And for me, that was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I am a Brandon Sanderson fan, so I enjoy almost all of his books, but they usually take me time to get through. You know, I enjoy every minute of it, but it can take me a week or two, especially his Stormlight Archive series, to slowly enjoy the story. But this book, I could not put it down. It was so fast-paced, so engaging, and the main character, I wanted to see her grow so much that there was just no way I was putting this down. So I read this in one day, and it's quite big to do that as well. You know, I'm a tabber, so I tabbed it like crazy. This was just such an enjoyable experience. If you haven't read Skyward, it's about a girl named... I just forgot her name. What's her name? A girl named Spencer, and she lives on what appears to be an Earth-like planet, but they live underground because they are constantly attacked by an alien species. And in their world, since it's a war-torn world, all she is known is war. So bravery and strength is respected above all else. And so the pilots who fly the spaceships that fight these aliens are the most respected people in their society. And Spencer wants so very badly to become a pilot. However, her dad was a pilot in the past, and he turned on his unit and ran away. And this is considered the worst crime a person can do in this society. So she's struggling against her father's negative legacy to try to become a pilot. And it's about her finding out the truth of what's going on in her world and growing as a person. And it's just so phenomenally written. I am starting to get more into sci-fi. I'm definitely a newbie at the genre, so this is a really good entry point for me. The writing style is super easy, as always with Brandon Sanderson, and I didn't think I'd be interested in starship fight scenes, but I was on the edge of my seat, and I never had any problems understanding the maneuvers that were being made because they were well established in the world building. So if you want to get into sci-fi, or even if you're a sci-fi lover, I highly recommend Skyward. You will not be able to put it down. Prompt number 2 is snacking. What is a guilty pleasure book? Now for this, I can't really think of a specific book, but I can think of a genre. I like fantasy trashy romance as a guilty pleasure. So if I'm in a reading slump or I just want something quick, I'll reach for something like that. So Sarah J. Maas is a well-known author in that genre. I also, a while ago, picked up something called, I think it was Blood Oath. I had Kindle Unlimited at the time and it was free, so I clicked it, and I'll put the covers up here, but it's one of those, you know, like half-naked man with shadows around him, you know, kind of covers, and when I'm in the mood, I can really enjoy those types of stories. So I would say kind of trashy, fantasy-esque romance, or urban romances, would be my guilty pleasure books. Prompt number 3, Netflix. What is a series you want to start? This one is 100% The Book of the Ancestor by Mark Lawrence. The number of times I have been recommended Red Sister or seen glowing reviews of any of the books in the series, Red Sister, Grey Sister, and I believe it's Holy Sister, I want to start this series so bad, and I have a feeling that once I do, I'm not going to be able to put them down. So after I do my Owls readathon, which I'm doing this month in April, I'm thinking next month I might bump that trilogy to the top of my list because he just released a new book in that world. I think it's The Girl in the Stars, and the cover is so beautiful. Like, I really want to read it, but of course I get to enjoy the first trilogy first. So I want to start this so bad, so I'm thinking I might read it in May. The next one, prompt number 4, is Deep Clean, a book that has been on your TBR for ages. So something that most people actually don't know about me is in university, I was not an English major, I was a linguistics major, but I took a lot of English major classes for the love of books. And I read a lot of classics, especially like Victorian literature. So I've read almost all of the Bronte sisters' works. I've read lots of work from that time. Like The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins is one of my favorite books of all time. So I have a lot of classics, but I haven't been in the mood to read them for quite some time. But one of the books I've had on there is The Picture of Dorian Gray. I want to read that book so bad. I just love the idea of a narcissistic man kind of being his own demise. Obviously, I know there's a twist in the book, and maybe what I think the book is about isn't what it's about, but I just love the idea of a Victorian man pining over himself. I just think that would be so funny to read. So that's been on my list for a really long time. And then the second one would be The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So this is my pretty edition, the cloth-bound classic. I mean, it's gorgeous. And I haven't explored which stories are included in this version, so I need to see if I've read all of the ones in here, because I have these massive tomes. This is volume 1, and I also have volume 2. And these are the complete collections of Sherlock Holmes. So this is every story he's ever written, and they're thick boys. As you can see, I have a bookmark in here. I'm on page 495 of the first volume, so I've read a good chunk of his work, but I really enjoy it. Even though, you know, Sherlock Holmes is so full of himself, and I know Arthur Conan Doyle kind of inserted himself into this character, but the stories are just fascinating, and I really enjoy these stories. So I would like to finish these volumes one day, but you know, we can slowly move through them. I see them as a collection of short stories, so little by little. Prompt 5 is Animal Crossing, a book you bought recently because of the hype. And that is 100% Crescent City. I've talked about this on my channel before. I have a full review for just this book, which I will put a card up here and a link down below. But I'm not a huge Sarah J. Maas fan. I said that she was one of my guilty pleasures because I do pick her up if I'm in the mood for a guilty pleasure romance. But I wouldn't say that she's an auto-buy author. But it was gorgeous. Everyone was talking about it and loving it, and I just fell for the hype and I bought it. So you can check out my review for my in-depth thoughts, but I did not end up regretting that decision. I loved this book. I loved it, as you can see. But I definitely initially bought it because of the hype around it. Number 6 is Productivity, a book you learnt from or had an impact on you. Now for this one, I have a couple. I would say any of the books I've read by Fredrik Backman. Now you may have heard me mention him on my channel before, but he is Swedish. I am horrible at remembering where this man is from. I believe he's from Sweden. And so his books are translated works, but when I do read contemporary, I like to read hard-hitting contemporary, and he is just the king of hard-hitting contemporary. His books are phenomenal. So I've only read Beartown and A Man Called Ove so far, But A Man Called Ove is the most recent one I read, and it's about like a crotchety old man who complains about everything, and he's our main character, which is a very unique main character to have. And in the beginning you're annoyed with him, just as most people I'm sure in the world would be, but you kind of get to know him throughout the story and throughout the intricacies of what he's going through in his mind. And that book is so funny and also heartbreakingly beautiful at the same time. I mean, I cried for probably about 30 minutes riding my bicycle home from work because I was listening to the audiobook, and everyone I passed was looking at me like, is this girl okay? Maybe we should move a little farther away, because I'm just like silently crying riding my bicycle.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
But I love his work, and I think it really hits my heart, and I always learn a life lesson, or I reflect on the way that I treat people in my own life whenever I read his books. So anything by Frederick Bachman, and also The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Oh man, that book hit my soul. I am ashamed to say I don't own a copy of it, but that must be on my shelves in the future. Again, cried my eyes out. As a LGBTQ plus person who wasn't necessarily in an environment where I had other people to connect to, that book made me feel so seen and so loved and so understood. And not only that aspect of it, but it really taught me how you can make your life anything that you desire for it to be, and never be ashamed for going after what you want. So for those of you who don't know, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is about Evelyn Hugo, who is a starlet. She's not a real person, but by the time you finish the book, you're going to want to Google her to look her up because she seems so real. So she was a starlet, like Marilyn Monroe style, in old school Hollywood. And over the course of her life, she had 7 husbands. And she's never shared the story of her life before. And in this book, the story begins when she agrees to tell one specific reporter about her life. But we don't know why she chose that specific person or why she will only tell this one reporter, but that's a mystery that's solved by the end. And so it's kind of like flashback style of her talking about her life. And it has all the hype in the world, and it deserves every moment of hype. It's a phenomenal book. So I would say Frederick Bachman and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Those are the 2 author and book that really impacted me in the past couple of years. Number 7 is FaceTime, a book that you were gifted. Now this one makes me so excited because my parents, the wonderful people that they are, gifted me Brandon Sanderson's Warbreaker and Elantris leather-bound versions for my birthday. And unfortunately, with shipping costs, and I live in Japan, my parents live in America, those were shipped to my American home. So they are waiting for me there. I haven't physically touched them or held them or seen them. But my parents sent me a picture when they arrived, and they have been gifted to me. So those are in my collection when I finally figure out where I'm going to be settling down and I can bring all of my books together. I will have those 2 absolutely beautiful versions in my collection, and I cannot wait to have them on my shelf. They're just, perfection. Prompt number 8 is self-care. What is something you do to look after yourself? So for me, this is 2 main things. The first thing is skincare. If I don't wash my face in the morning, I feel like trash. It doesn't matter if my makeup is great, I'm having a great hair day. If I haven't washed my face or done my face mask at night or done my routine, I feel just like absolute trash. So I would say skincare is super important for me, mentally and of course physically, to feel at my best. So skincare, 100%, especially while being stuck indoors. It's important to stay on that regimen. Those are very different words. Regime is like a government a really bad government. Vocabulary lessons. So it's really important to stay on that regimen when you're stuck inside and maybe you don't have the usual schedule that you would have. So definitely skincare. And the second one is weightlifting. I need to move my body physically to feel okay. It's okay to have a lazy day here and there, but I notice that if I don't move my body, I become really antsy and I'm just not a pleasant person to be around, honestly. So unfortunately with, the pandemic, I haven't been able to go to the gym and do my weightlifting. I do have a weight at home, but it's different from having a squat rack. So I've been doing some yoga, but unfortunately I haven't been able to do this self-care as much as I would have liked to. But I can definitely always do better. So I do yoga every morning, but I think I want to do more body weight exercises at home to get this self-care, part of my self-care, back on track. Finally is a bonus prompt, which is, what is an upcoming release you're excited for? So for this one I have a bunch. If you've seen my 5-star predictions video, these books will all have been in that video. But the ones that come to mind right now are Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, the 4th book in the Stormlight Archive series. Again, I'm a Brandon Sanderson fan. I love the Stormlight Archive with all of my heart, and I cannot wait to jump into the 4th book. When it comes out this year in November, best believe, dropping everything else on my TBR to read that. Another one is The Thorn of Emberlane, which is the 4th book in the Lies of Locke Lamora series, or the Gentleman Bastard sequence is the name of the whole overarching story. That one's gonna come out whenever Scott Lynch wants it to come out. He's kind of pushed back the release date many times, so I'm not exactly sure where the release date sits now, but it's already on pre-order for whenever it's actually being sold, and I just can't wait to see what the continuation of that story is. And the third one that comes to my mind is Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. So I absolutely adore the Nevernight series, one of my favorite series of all time, but I haven't read anything else by J. Kristoff. But I'm assuming, because of how much I love that series, the Nevernight series, I will love any adult fantasy that he comes out with. So Empire of the Vampire is an urban fantasy, and obviously about vampires, but the release date got pushed back till 2021. But just because of the author and the premise, I cannot wait to read this book. I think it's going to be so fun. That concludes my stay-at-home book tag. Once again, please go check out Katie from Brightness Katie Reads and Sophia from Spew Deserves Better, the people who tagged me. I'm going to put them down below. I'm also going to tag a few different people. I'm going to tag... don't remember anyone's YouTube name. Sasha from The Wild Sasha also will be linked below. Hannah from Hannah Books and Other Things. Yes, tagged down below, of course. And also, I'm not sure what you would like to be called, I'm sorry, but Benedict or Ben from On My Bookshelf. I tagged the 3 of you. If you haven't done this already, I know this tag's going around and I'm a little late, but I tagged the 3 of you. I'd love to know your answers to these questions. Anyone else that I didn't just tag, please feel free to do this. I tag you as well. So everyone take care of yourself while we're all stuck inside. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you guys in another video. I'm gonna head out. Jane!